Hi, I'm Jim Taylor. I'm a C56 neck break after a rugby accident in 1978. I was playing for Kelvinside against Old Aloysians in an FP game. The ground was wet, scrum collapsed, and I was just left lying face down in the turf, and I felt like my legs were like balloons and I just couldn't move, and I found it really hard to breathe. From there, I was moved into intensive care for approximately 10 days before we moved to the spinal unit. After I was in intensive care, they drilled my head and put a halo on. They basically drill 2 holes in the side of your skull, which is like pencils, put a halo on and drop weights over the back, which pulls your spine apart. At that point, they're really just trying to relieve any pressure on your cervical cord and relieve any damage with bruising. That was in place on my head for about 6 weeks, and then they take it off. And then you get a collar on and build up sitting up in bed. Every day you're getting checked and pins put in your toes and things like that to see if you can move or can feel it. I was in hospital for 12 months, so the rehab was quite long. In reality, I think my mindset was you either roll over one way and give up, or you roll over the other way and embrace it and take it on. Whilst it was hard for me, I think it's hard on your family. My brother struggled with it a bit. My dad struggled, wouldn't watch rugby again. My mum eventually became a nurse and carer before I married Sandra 25 years ago. And Sandra had to earn her stripes under mum's jurisdiction before that was, shall we say, allowed to progress to that sort of stage. My mum had Alzheimer's, so Sandra and I moved back to the house that we're in just now. Sandra, much to her credit, looked after my mum with Alzheimer's and me. So it was really hard on Sandra for that year and a half. I always look at it back that she was my mum. She gave me a great time, looked after me really well, accepted and embraced Sandra. But I think it was a release for her, because she wasn't quite the same person with her mental disposition. And I think overall it was a release and a happiness that she probably found. So that was a challenging time. Hearts and Balls was set up in 1999 when I was a boy injured. So I've been involved with them as an ambassador for the West of Scotland, well, since 1999. So I do fundraising there because I think it's important to give back to other people that have been injured. And I like to try and think I can inspire them, which I like to call myself Just Jim, because I just feel I'm an ordinary person, trying to encourage them to not give up, that there is opportunities out there that you can benefit from long term and you can have a good life. Then Glasgow Warriors came knocking on the door. They were looking to expand their backroom staff. I look after hospitality, so I'll take the bookings for that. I'll do the allocations per contract. I'm lucky enough to get involved with the players so we can watch them training. If somebody's in to look to sponsor Glasgow Warriors, it's up to me to try and upsell them to become a sponsor. But I think realistically, I just love rugby. It was very humbling being awarded the MBEE in 2015. It was kind of icing in the cake for a bad year. Started off with a small lump in the December 2014. Sandra wisely decided we better get it checked out. We went in, got the biopsy done, and went back a couple of days later. I kind of was aware things weren't right. I was double teamed by the doctors, and Sandra was sitting there, and I felt for her. Which, yes, I get emotional about now, because it was hard for Sandra at the time, for them to hear that I had an aggressive cancer, and she wasn't waiting on it. So it turned out I had a Rottweiler cancer as opposed to Labrador, as they call it. So that would be nothing new for me to get something a bit different from everybody else. So challenge was on. The doctor, Chris, and his team were fantastic. They gave me a book to read, which, not being Billy Big, I threw in the bin because I'm not the best reader in the world. And I just said, just tell me what I've got to do. If you want me to do 10 press-ups or 10 circuits or whatever, I'll do it. And came out the other side. So roughly 6 weeks later, that was sort of more or less healed. Donald Wilson had nominated me for the MBE. So Sandra and I went down at the end of the year in November to Buckingham Palace and got my MBE there, and it was very emotional. That was just a nice finish to a testing year, I would say. I live a happy, full life. I'm really lucky with Sandra. Looking forward to my silver wedding. I could have died in the pitch, so for me, each day's a bonus.